One thing that's real is that, every 3 months we make a model that's smarter than the model we made before. And indeed, the models are slowly getting to where they're, better than most humans at most things. Maybe at some point better than all humans than all things. The other thing I think is real is, the model is not building itself in the sense that, like, I have a specific copy of the model that's like making a specific copy of the next model. We don't have our self-replicating, nanobots or robots or whatever. But what absolutely is happening is that within Anthropic and elsewhere, we are using Claude to help build products on top of Claude and to help train the next Claude, to help serve Claude faster. 6 months ago, I made this prediction that, in 6 months, 90% of code would be written by AI models. Some people think that prediction is wrong, but within Anthropic and within a number of companies that we work with, that is absolutely true. Now,
So you're saying that 90% of all code at Anthropic's being written by the model today?
On many teams, not uniformly everywhere.
Is that something that you've kind of provided, something auditable around that, or like shown how that's happened?
Yeah, the teams play an editing and supervisory role, but Claude can both, you can say, write this feature and Claude will do it, and then the human kind of looks over the code or asks for help from another model, another copy of Claude. The other thing is sometimes we have these long-running bugs. When we were training the most recently released Claude, it was like, the cluster was broken, there was this bug, engineers were spending a few days on it, and we just went to Claude and we said, I don't know, just kind of play around with the cluster and see if you can figure out what's wrong. And Claude found this just super obscure bug that the engineers had missed. So this was one area where it was like, Claude is like having a very talented teammate.
So if Claude is now writing 90% of all of the code in Anthropic, do you need less engineers if 90% of all the code? When will it be 95% or 99%?
Yeah, so I think people can misinterpret it as like Claude writing 90% of the code means we're firing 90% of the software engineers. But if you're familiar with the principle of
you have made some very aggressive comments around firing executives. I just want to put 2 and 2 together to get 4. Okay.
If
one thing I've learned in knowing you for so long is I have to come back and kind of like get that qualifying question again.
Yes.
Because you're going fast, so I'm trying to keep up with you, and it's amazing. But I want to just make sure I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. Let me take them one by one. So, under comparative advantage, if Claude is writing 90% of the code, what that means usually is you need just as many software engineers. You might need more because they can then be more leveraged. They can focus on the 10% that's editing the code or writing the 10% that's the hardest, or supervising a group of AI models. And so what happens is, you can just end up being 10 times more productive because the remaining 10% is now a complement to the AI system that's getting much better at what it's producing. So it's
a rebalancing of the work, is what you're really saying.
It's
not a replacement.
It's not a replacement.